Hey, y'all. This is Adam Marcus, writer and director of Jason Goes to Hell, Texas Chainsaw, and Secret Santa, and you're listening to Scarifyer.
To a new world of gods and monsters.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today is the day. I am the Ace.
I am the Gov.
And I'm Quinn.
And today, it is our honor, to say the least, to be introducing to you guys genre legend, writer, director, for the first time in the house that Psycho's built. Welcome, Mr. Adam Marcus.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi. How y'all doing?
Really good.
Doing great.
This is so cool, man. We're looking forward to this.
Forward to it, too. I'm excited to be with you guys.
So, one of the things I'm kind of curious about is Westport, Connecticut. I have family out there, and I don't know much about this area. I mean, is it a big town, or, I mean, what's it like?
Now, when you say you got family out there, you family that lives in Westport?
No, I have family in Salisbury, Connecticut.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, here's the thing about Westport. Westport is it's not a big town. I mean, it's a reasonable sized place. It's about 40 miles outside of Manhattan. It's if you ever watch like the old I Love Lucy show, that's where they move to when they move to Connecticut. That's where they move when they move out of the city. It's where Darren and Samantha lived on Bewitched.
Cool.
It's where they shot the original The Stepford Wives, which, by the way, that's the town that Ira Levin wrote The Stepford Wives about.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. No, Westport's a remarkable place because it's this sort of weird little artist community. And that's why it was sort of the bedroom community in Manhattan for a lot of playwrights and actors. I lived very short distance from Paul Newman's house.
Wow.
Right down the road was Martha Stewart, and I used to sing at her Christmas parties.
Oh, wow.
This is no joke. Neil Simon lived a couple blocks away. I did play readings with people like Keir Delay and Sandy Dennis and Frank Gorshin, the original Riddler on the Batman. I had this incredible. I was Meatloaf's rock gardener. I'm not kidding. That's not a joke. I actually did all of Meatloaf's rock gardens when I was 15. So we knew all these people. There was a great New Year's Eve when I met one of my best friends, this guy Trevor Cohen, who's a genius, a jazz musician back east. We were in our late teens, and on New Year's Eve, I am playing Trivial Pursuit with his whole family, Meatloaf and Meatloaf's family, and Ginger Baker, the insane drummer from Cream. So that was just my life. Like, that wasn't even weird. That was just what it was. So it was this incredible enclave of talented people. And of course, in amongst them was my best friend, Noel Cunningham, when we were growing up as kids, and his dad, Sean Cunningham, who, when I was really little, all we knew about Sean is that he had made a porn movie.
Oh, nice.
And, when you're a little kid, like, that's the most outrageous, cool thing about somebody. Like, oh my God, he made a porn movie. And in fact, my friend Noel played Marilyn Chambers' love child in that porno movie. That's not a joke. When Noel was an infant, he played Marilyn Chambers. Marilyn Chambers, who the infamous porn star who actually went to my high school. As did, by the way, Linda Blair.
Wow.
So did Michael Douglas. So did Christopher Lloyd. So Doc Brown had a lot of the same teachers that I had.
Great Scott!
It's a pretty remarkable little spot outside of a major city where it's look, my high school was built around an existing theater where the Doors and Jimi Hendrix played.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And the theater company that I worked with for my whole growing up, we paid for the sports programs, not the other way around.
Wow.
So our theater would bring in a couple $100,000 a year in profit that would literally pay for the football team and the basketball team and the lacrosse team. And, so that was, it was, in fact, the year I was a senior in high school, was the year that myself and one of my really good friends, Adam Cranner, who plays Ward in Jason Goes to Hell. Adam and I were the heads of our theater department, and we got the school to recognize theater as something that you should be able to letter in. So it was the first year that we all got Letterman jackets for being in theater.
I agree 110% with that.
Right?
More high schools
Right?
need that.
I couldn't agree, dude. I think if you could letter in marching band, I think you could actually save the arts in most of these towns.
Right?
So yeah, look, dude. I think mathletes should be able to letter. I think anybody with an exceptional skill that brings notice to their school and their town, you should be able to letter in those things and be able to walk with the same kind of pride that jocks have been able to walk around with forever. And look, I was a track guy. So I loved athletics. I'm not even somebody who's like anti-athletics. I'm all for it. But for the love of God, why is that somehow rated on a higher place as a young person, especially when the truth is it's proven fact, people who have a background in music and the arts end up better in science and math, which ends up meaning that they will make much more money over their lifetime and have a better life.
Especially now with, arts and music being so much more prominent than
Exactly.
Sports are. You know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more.
The direction of movie making and Hollywood was like a natural direction for you from what it sounds like, I mean, you grew up with it.
My whole family was in the business. So my mother had been a professional singer my whole life and had toured the world. So did my grandmother. My great-grandfather was a famous vaudevillian. But my Uncle Ned, you guys will dig this, my Uncle Ned played Eddie, one of the leading characters in The Burning.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
That's Ned Eisenberg is my uncle, and he's a bad guy now. He's in like every 6th episode of Law and Order for 20 some years. And my Uncle Joe Ellison wrote, directed, and produced Don't Go in the House, the 1981 horror classic.
Right.
I was definitely I was immersed in this from the beginning, not to mention the fact that my best friend was Noel Cunningham, and I became a fixture in the Cunningham household from when I was about 10 on. And it's why I was there for the shooting of the first Friday the 13th and Spring Break and the House and so on and so forth.
I mean, you mentioned something about being about 10 years old when you kind of were like working as a PA with the Cunninghams. Like, was that something that you asked to be a part of, or did you kind of like jump into it because naturally?
They liked having me around. I mean, I was Noel's best friend, so I was always there. And I was really helpful in always, food running and doing stuff, just doing stuff. So Sean really was the first person to introduce me to filmmaking and to the world of film. And then Susan, his amazing wife, who we lost a couple of years ago, just an incredible person, was like a second mom to me. Susan, who edited Friday the 13th Part 2 and a bunch of other movies, she's just a brilliant editor. She and Steve Miner kind of moved me from being sort of the kid who ran, diet soda for Sean to a kid working as an apprentice editor in the editing room on a movie called Spring Break, which, by the way, I think I was about 13 when we were making it. And it's the most inappropriate movie for a 13-year-old boy to work on, but it's the perfect movie for a 13. I always say, because the movie is literally wall-to-wall boobies. Like it's just an excuse for that, right? I always say I walked into the editing room a boy, I came out a man, because that was sort of the moment. But yeah, No, I was very that I did pursue it with them, but that they embraced me so completely.
And did you get paid to watch the boobs?
I did.
They paid you for that?
It's not a big deal.
Not only did I get paid, I mean, I got so many perks in the whole thing. I mean, look, honestly, if they had just said watch the boobs, I would have been like, payment's enough, thank you.
Man, my first job was at a theme park.
Well, not bad. It's not bad. You know. I gotta say, what was amazing. I mean, look, and it sounds so silly now, but I look back on it as like the coolest thing ever. I remember we did after our first week working on the movie. Susan, they had this big box of all this wardrobe that had come off the set that they had there in the offices, and there were costumes that Noel and I really loved that were in the movie. And Susan let us like rummage through the costume boxes and take shit that we wanted.
Wow.
And I gotta tell you, like that was so super cool. And I know it sounds so silly, but like as a 13-year-old kid, when you're getting like the tough guys, you know, studded vests with like Harley Davidson on the back, you're like, this is badass. It was ridiculous, but it was awesome fun. And I remember even at that moment, Susan gave me the mask. I still have it. The mask from Friday the 13th Part 2 that the jokester character wears to scare everybody. That sort of like hideous old man mask thing. Yeah. I still have that.
Oh, wow.
And that's simply because Susan was like, yeah, whatever you want, grab it. And like there were perks that were so beyond I think I got like $20 a week to work on that movie.
Still.
But it was... I know, right? This is circa the early '80s. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, there was something about just the opportunity to play in that playground. And look, you know, guys, I'm like most people of my generation in that I was 9 years old. It was a Saturday morning. It was the second day of the release of the original Star Wars, and my dad had already seen the movie in Manhattan. I drove to Connecticut in the morning to take me to the first screening. Took my brother and I. And I'm sitting there in this theater, 9 years old. The Tantive 4 runs over our heads, then the Star Destroyer, and I literally gasped, turned to my dad, and said, "I want to do that."
Right.
And my dad, of course, because I was 9, thought I wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh.
And I was like, no, I want to make that. And the thing that's remarkable and that I look back now on in awe of that 9-year-old kid is that I have not spent one day since that moment where I wasn't pursuing being a filmmaker. Like I was a storyteller from that day. And I can track week by week from that point in my life till today that every single moment of my life has been in service to that dream, to that pursuit of wanting to tell stories. So the Cunningham sort of showed up in my life at exactly the right crossroads for me to go, oh my God, I want to do this and you do that. So I'm just going to move into your house.
Star Wars.
I mean, I think everybody, especially with the original Star Wars, has that like eye-opening moment to where like that's it. And you were lucky enough you had it right in your backyard, as you said.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I mean, you walk into my house, there's a full standing stormtrooper that greets you at the door. I'm not joking.
That's fantastic.
That's
that is awesome.
Like I honor my in my garage. I open up the garage and the neighbor kids like always want to come and just stare. Because there's 2 full standing Yodas and a Princess Leia just standing, but full size, standing in front of my driveway, like hanging out. And I think it's I honor every. By the way, right alongside a 3D version of the Texas Chainsaw poster. So. Which is great because then the really cool kids in the neighborhood really want to like, oh, you have that. So. The little kids are like Yoda, and all the adults are like take chainsaw. So
it's a good balance.
But again, Yeah, hey man, I think it's the best freaking balance. But it's, you know what? I think the idea is that while we all grow up and try to adult in some way, I think the importance of being really good at this, or at least having the balls to stay in it, is I think you have to be a kid. I think that every filmmaker has to still keep that childlike sense of wonder that made us want to tell stories at the beginning of the game. And that I have never lost. Thankfully, I've never lost, or it's never been driven out of me. And I think that's a lot of what happens to young people is, some adult tells them that their dream is impossible or that this is not going to ever happen for them, and they crush that kid's dream. My parents tried that. I'm not saying they didn't. They tried. They our whole family was in the business, and it was like, please don't do this. It's a life of misery. And my response to that, whenever they would say something like that, when I was 15, I started my first theater company that I owned. And basically it was to show them, oh, you can't make money at this? I'll show you I can. And I ended up putting myself through film school at NYU by doing theater. But again, that's just because I willed it to happen. Like I wanted that to be my path.
Actually, that brings up a great question. So why NYU and not go,
Anywhere,
USC
anywhere
or?
else.
Here's the wisdom, at least at that time, and it still persists to this day. The triumvirate of what at that time was considered the best was you had three schools. You had USC, you had UCLA, you had NYU. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to focus on writing, UCLA was the place to go. If you wanted to be a producer, USC was the place to go. If you wanted to direct, NYU was the school. And look, I was born and bred in New York and Connecticut. My dad lived in New York. My mom lived in Connecticut. I spent my weekends in New York. So New York was my playground as a small child. And by the way, this is New York of the 70s and early 80s where, guys, I was mugged 5 times in Manhattan.
God.
Growing up. I was stabbed once.
Wow.
And by the way, I miss that New York with every fiber of my being. I hate New York now. Like the New York that's there now is like this rich person's Disneyland. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like horribly gentrified. It's the worst.
You miss getting mugged and stabbed.
I was about to say that sentence together.
Well, no, and by the way, yes, I do.
Plus the irony that you went on to make horror movies.
Totally. Trust me, it's not lost on me. But here's the thing. I while I was at NYU, I made a documentary about the Guardian Angels. Okay. And I don't know if you guys know about the Guardian Angels, but it was a group of inner city kids that decided to defend the citizenry of New York. It started in the 70s, but really took hold in the late 70s and the 80s. And they would wear these red berets, and they would truly patrol the subways, the darker streets of New York, the worst neighborhoods. And it was like people from like 16 to 30 was sort of their little army of people. And I went and shot them for a documentary I was making during college because I love these guys. Plus, my Uncle Ned was in the television movie about the birth of the Guardian Angels. So as a little kid, I looked up to them because my Uncle Ned was one of the bad guys in this movie. So I started hanging with them, and we went into a crack house in Alphabet City, which is the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Which now, by the way, you can't get a one-room studio for under $3,000.
Wow.
I believe it.
Same spot, same joint. So I go into a crack house, and there was a guy who ran at me to stab me, had a knife to stab me because I had the camera. So he was like trying to get the camera. So he runs to stab me, and suddenly there's like this blur of red passes my camera, and that person has been taken out, like they're gone. And it was one of these guys with the beret flashed by my camera. It was actually a young woman who took him out.
Wow.
But it was amazing because from that day forward, the Guardian Angels walked me from my subway exit in Hell's Kitchen to my apartment every single night, because they said, you're one of us now because you didn't flinch when that guy jumped you with the knife.
Wow.
There you go.
Here's the thing, that was New York of my childhood. It was this place of like badasses who kind of stuck up for each other. And again, here's the other thing, you know, like my friends at that time, even the guys at NYU, we were like this kind of weird melting pot of human beings. Nobody thought about each other's differences. It never came up. We didn't talk about it. You just had a tribe of friends that looked like a freaking Benetton ad. and that was just the way you rolled, you know, like that was just the way it was. So I miss that New York. It was dangerous, no doubt. It was dangerous, but it was alive. It was exciting. I mean, I made 21 movies in 3.5 years at NYU. And when I think about the guys, and again, we're talking about like, I didn't shoot videos. I didn't shoot stuff on my phone, which by the way, I only wish that I had all the stuff that people have now when they start out.
Right.
Right. I had to shoot on 16 millimeter, which cost you a shit ton of money. It's not like NYU was giving you the footage. They forgot. I was leaking money out of, I had to work several jobs the whole time I was at NYU as a student, because otherwise there's no way I could afford it. No way. I mean, that school is now like over $1 million to go to.
Mm-hmm.
But even back when I was there, it was, I don't know, about $300,000. So yeah, you know, the 300,000 plus your student films and everything else, it's, oh my God, I almost fall down thinking about that. I wince at like how dumb and dangerous we were, but man, we made some good movies. But now you have to have a professor on your set with you because of the amount of risks that young filmmakers take. The number of times my entire crew should have been electrocuted. I'm standing in a swamp in New Jersey, no joke, holding a 1K over my head in a swamp.
Wow.
And there's like, I have extras running through the swamp looking for a dead body. And literally I'm standing there and I'm thinking, if I drop this, everybody dies.
No pressure.
But it'd be a great shot in the end.
I'm telling you, we made great movies. Like I look, I mean, when I was at our film festival at the end of, I graduated early, so I was in the film festival the year before I would normally have been, and I remember, there were like, I think it was like 300 movies for the finals at NYU. And I remember sitting there and like film after film after film going like, wow, these are good movies. And that's 300 movies. I'm not saying there weren't stinkers. There were a lot of stinkers. There always are. But the ratio was kind of extraordinary. And again, it's because I was at a film school. Look, I've taught classes at AFI, at USC, at Chapman. I've taught classes at these schools. By the way, Chapman University is an amazing film school, by the way. And I'm giving a shout out to a place that I just think is really good. But here's the thing. I teach class at University of Texas at Austin 4 times a year. I do master classes with them. Nobody makes any movies. Like, they just don't make movies. And I'm like, what are you got? You're in film school. Why aren't you all shooting films? Like, what's going on? And it's amazing to me how few movies get produced. And I think back, I had to pay for my stock. It was a much harder thing to pull off shooting on film. And I made 21 movies. That, by the way, those are just the films I wrote and directed. You had to work on 4 times as many movies as you made. So I made close to 100 films at NYU in 3.5 years. That's how you learn how to be a filmmaker, is running film through a camera. That's how you learn. Or in this day and age, it's, shooting stuff on your iPhone or whatever you happen to have available.
So if they're not making movies, what are they doing?
I gotta tell you, I cannot tell you what the hell they're doing because I'm brought in to talk to people about writing and directing, and I talk about that, but I'm never given movies to look at. Like, can I see their work? Well, they haven't shot anything yet. They're third year students.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
haven't shot anything yet. Like, what are we talking about? By the way, AFI is better than most because you are really shooting stuff. I will tell you something about USC that I didn't like, and the reason why I rejected it as a school for myself. At NYU, when you make a film, you have to have the NYU logo on it. It's made at NYU, but you own the movie. Do you guys know at USC you don't own your film? USC owns the movie.
What?
Oh.
And they don't pay for the movie. You pay for the movie. They own the movie. They act like a studio. Now, by the way, that's why it's the best producing school, because they teach you
That's
right
what
up
a
front.
producer, yeah.
Exactly. They teach you right up front, listen, we're going to screw everybody. And it's like, oh, okay, you're actually, well done. You're teaching people what Hollywood is. At NYU, they're like, you're a maverick. It's yours. You own it. But I will tell you this. I went to NYU. I won Best Picture in my final year. And a slew of other awards. In fact, it's the first time that the Ensemble Cast Award was ever given for a film at NYU, for a movie I made called So You Like This Girl, which was a romantic comedy.
Right.
And it was this really like upbeat, happy, in color movie. Totally not what you do at NYU. It was so. It was. I was so expecting for everybody to hate my movie, and it ended up winning Best Picture. But it was so un-NYU that when NYU came to California that year to do their screenings, because NYU does screenings in LA every year of their top students, they wouldn't show my film. And I said, wait a minute, I won Best Picture. They said, yeah, but it's just not NYU enough. I was like, what? What the fuck does that mean? I'm not, what? I'm like, I grew up in New York. I got into NYU in my first semester of my junior year of high school. I got pulled in early acceptance to NYU. And I'm like, and I'm not NYU enough? What is that?
So they had an image. What was that image if you weren't NYU enough?
Yeah.
The image is shot on black and white, two people sitting in a cafe talking about a woman who got away from them while they both sip their cappuccinos.
So pretentious.
I'm not kidding. Like insanely pretentious. Like the movies that came to LA, I was like, this is what you're bringing? This is what you say represents us? It was horrible.
God, you're pretentious.
So I had this like amazing piece of ensemble work in this movie. Out of that picture, I got 2 job offers. One was from David Lynch and Mark Frost to write on season 2 of Twin Peaks. And the other offer was from Sean Cunningham, who had now moved to LA. And he called me up and said, listen, and this is his words, if you'll be my bitch for a year, I'll give you your shot. So I immediately was like, I'm going to LA.
Fuck Twin Peaks.
So like a schmuck, I come to Los Angeles. I had $300 in my pocket. By the way, I had paid all my student loans off because I've been working all of these jobs. Literally, I had a bike messenger job. I was like, anything Kevin Bacon could do, I would do. So I was like Quicksilver.
There you go.
Because I'd been there for the first Friday 13th. I think somehow by the way, whenever you guys are playing 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, I'm your one now. So
All right.
Adam Marcus, Kevin Bacon, done. I also worked for this company called R. Greenberg and Associates, where I worked on little movies like Goodfellas. So that was, by the way, that's when I'm 19. I'm 19, 20 when I'm working on Goodfellas. And delivering film elements directly to Martin Scorsese and having him sit me down in the editing room to look at scenes.
Oh, wow.
And asking me, like, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you mean, what do I think? I think it's freaking brilliant. That's what I think.
You talk about on-the-job training.
Your opinion. Yes, exactly. I was there for meetings about Silence of the Lambs. and got to listen to Jonathan Demme talk about what he was trying to do with Hannibal Lecter and you know, the kind of mind-blowing stuff. So I'd had all of this. So I had paid everything off. I was clear. I had no debt, not to mention the fact that I was doing a ton of theater with my 2 theater companies. And I get to LA, I have $300 in my pocket and no driver's license.
Well, New York, you wouldn't need one.
Yeah, and that's exactly my thinking. I get to LA and they're like, "You don't have a driver's license?" Like, no, no, you don't have subways here? No, nothing. I bought with my $300. I bought a canary yellow 1963 VW Bug. By the way, same car Kevin Bacon has in Footloose. Just saying.
My heart just fluttered a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. It's pretty damn cool. The only problem is I had to live in the car.
No.
It's not a great model for living in. It's not great.
Great for driving, but not suitable for a living situation.
But by the way, I couldn't drive the thing because it didn't have a damn license. So, I mean, this thing was like a planter. It was ridiculous. So it was it was rough. My first year in LA was really hard. You know, being homeless was awesome. But I will tell you, it's a great motivator. There was no way I was going to stay that way for any actual length of time. So it did propel me into action pretty quickly.
So between, you know, then and your childhood, had your relationship with him changed much?
No, my relationship with Sean was always, here's the thing. Okay. I owe a tremendous amount to Sean Cunningham. I owe him the beginning of my career. I owe him a tremendous amount of knowledge base that he afforded me. All of that is true. Here's the thing. Sean Cunningham is a terrible person.
Oh.
Yes. Sean is not a nice man. Okay. Sean was nice to me, especially when I was a kid, because look, let's be honest. I was his son's best friend. His son was a bit of a, how you say, fuck up. And I was not. And so Sean liked having me around as an example to Noel of like, can you act a little more like him, please?
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, exactly. Which was not great. Not great ultimately for my relationship.
I was about to say that's got to put a strain on you and Noel a little bit, right?
Oh, it sucked. It really sucked. And I constantly had to apologize. Like, dude, like Noel was not a great student. I was a straight A student. That was always thrown in Noel's face, not by me. And I'd be like, Noel, fuck grades. Like, who cares, man? Like, that's not, what does that matter? It has nothing to do with your worth or any other damn thing. So I was constantly having to go against shit that Sean was peddling about me to his son, who's my best friend. So yeah, it was not great. It was not great. The thing is, look, I made a ton of money for Sean Cunningham because when I came to LA, I had a project that my closest friend in college, a guy named Dean Laurie, who was one of my roommates, he had written this project that I was going to direct, and we'd workshopped the thing for years during school, called Johnny Zombie, which is the heartwarming tale of a young man who decides he's a very normal, average kid, and he decides he's going to pick one day in particular that he's going to be spectacular in high school. Like, there's a day where I'm going to be the king of the school. And he chooses the senior prom. And there's this girl who lives next door named Missy McLeod. Missy is everything this guy loves, but they've been best friends since they were little kids. In fact, they used to have baths together when they were like 2. So there's nothing sexual for her about this kid at all. He's in best friend land forever, but he's secretly in love with her. And he decides he's going to ask Missy to go to the senior prom with him and have this spectacular night, right? And kind of prove to the world that he's special. And the night that he gets the nerve to ask her out to go to the prom, he is shot and killed in a convenience store holdup while protecting her. He dies in her arms, and as he's dying, he asks her to the prom. And of course, of course, she's not going to say no to the guy who's dying because he stood in front of a bullet to save her. She says yes. Cut to Johnny comes back from the grave to go to the prom.
Not gonna miss it.
Exactly. And of course, what we find out is that the cemetery is built on an ancient Indian burial ground, blah, 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 and that there's tons of zombies living within the confines of the burial ground, right? There's all of these zombies living inside the cemetery who only come out at night because they don't want to scare anybody. And they do things like have pinochle tournaments in the graveyard because they know if they cross over outside of that area, within 3 days, their bodies will deteriorate and they'll turn, they'll just fall apart. Johnny wants to go to the prom. So Johnny's like, screw you guys. And he leaves.
She said yes.
She did. And the prom is in 5 days. And he's only going to survive 3 days unless he eats the flesh of the living. The other zombie, which he finds disgusting. The other zombies are all inspired by Johnny, so they start to leave the cemetery too and go to their homes where everybody treats them like monsters, even though it's just their family members. Now, why did we create this movie? Because Dean and I were kids in the 80s in New York at NYU, and we had a ton of friends who died of AIDS, a ton. These were people who were the exact same people, but their families would shun them as though they were monsters. So we were like, hey, how do we tell this story in the most George Romero-esque way? Where, George Romero never made movies about zombies. He made movies about civil rights movement, about the Vietnam War, about commercialism, and then he just put zombies in there, and you had no idea you were getting your vegetables with all that delicious zombie dessert you were eating. Mm-hmm. So we made a zombie comedy, by the way, / musical, not kidding. And it was this movie about the AIDS epidemic without ever saying the word AIDS. Sean, after a very long, complicated story, Sean ended up picking up this script. He originally wanted to fire my writing partner, Dean Laurie, and I said, no, I won't sell you the script then you can't have it. And he was like, God, you got balls on you, kid. I was like, yeah, I do. I said, and also I believe in my friend. And I said, look, Sean, put us up in a hotel. Put us up in the worst flea bag hotel you can find in LA for 6 weeks. And we'll do whatever you want to the script. And if after that you don't like it, then you can fire it.
And this is the Dean Laurie of Arrested Development, Big Shots, right?
That's him. So Dean ends up coming to LA. Now, by the way, I was doing this really altruistic thing for my buddy and my writing partner and a guy that I love. I also wanted to get the fuck out of the car and wanted to not be homeless anymore, so a hotel sounded great. So he put us up in a hotel. We wrote for 6 weeks. He ended up falling madly in love with this project. And we ended up doing readings because of my theater background. And also, by the way, Sean's theater background, I don't know if you guys know, but Sean was a very successful stage manager on Broadway. And he had done things like Wait Until Dark, the road company Wait Until Dark, he was with for years. So that's Sean's. So our background, and I love working with actors. That's my lifeblood. And so we ended up doing readings of these table reads of Johnny Zombie because no one in Hollywood reads scripts. It's a very ironic town. The fact that there's more cell phones here than any other place in the world except for Tokyo. Tokyo and LA have the most cell phones. And we have the absolute worst cell signal on planet Earth.
That's ironic.
That is our great irony.
Of course.
We also are a movie that makes movies, yet nobody actually reads screenplays. So I said, hey, instead of trying to get some agent or some film executive to read the script, why don't we read it to them? And Sean was like, what? I said, why don't we invite executives to table reads? And let's cast them with wonderful actors, and let's read them the script. Let's bring the script to life magically for them. And so we did. we did table reads of Johnny Zombie, and I had the most incredible casts. because I had our casting director Barry Moss, who did Jason Goes to Hell. Barry Moss and Julie Hughes and David Giello were our casting directors, and they're geniuses, and they were Broadway casting directors. So when we went to do a reading of this, I had people like Charlotte Rae. Remember Mrs. Garrett from The Facts of Life?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay. I had her at my table reads. I had George Hearn, who won the Tony Award for playing Sweeney Todd on Broadway. George Hearn was just a member of the cast. But the best part of this is that Dean and my neighbor for 3 years at NYU, literally our next door neighbor, played Johnny, and that was Adam Sandler.
No.
Oh my God.
So Adam Sandler read Johnny.
Probably the most epic script reading ever.
Well, here's the thing. New Line and Disney were both at the reading, and they both went into a bidding war over the movie.
They had to have.
So now I was supposed to direct this movie. It was going to be my directorial debut, and I kept begging Sean. I'm like, Sean, New Line. Go with New Line. New Line is the right place. They get this kind. I said, Disney will destroy this film, please. Disney, however, backed up a truck of money to Sean's house, and that was the end of that. So he sold it to Disney. Instead of making this plucky $2 million, romantic comedy, horror, zombie musical, they made a movie called My Boyfriend's Back.
My boyfriend's back and you're
He came back from the dead for me.
God, my boyfriend won't even pump gas for me.
My boyfriend's back.
Well, I hope somebody eats a whole damn bunch of you.
It's a very neutered PG-13 Disney movie.
So why didn't you get to direct it?
Because it was an $8 million movie.
Oh.
And Disney was never going to put $8 million into the hands of a first-time director. It was never going to happen, especially, guys, you have to remember, I'm 21 when we sold the script. I was 22, I think, just when they were going to go to make the movie. So they were never going to give a 22-year-old $8 million, no matter how clever and cute I seemed. So they couldn't have cared less. It's at that moment that I turned to Sean Cunningham and said, dude, you owe me a freaking movie. Like, I just made you a ton of money.
To say the least. Yeah.
And again, I'm 22 years old. And Sean Cunningham looks at me and says, you are without... He said, Adam... By the way, if I sound like the Penguin when I'm doing an impression of Sean Cunningham, it's because Sean Cunningham is actually the supervillain, the Penguin. That's actually...
Got it.
He says, Adam, best thing about you... You're the world's biggest nudge. I swear to God. And he's right, because I am. I'm the world's biggest nudge. It's like, I don't take no for an answer. I'm going to stand there and wait and get you to acquiesce and get you to understand what my point of view is and why this is going to happen. And he said, well, No Line is buying Jason Voorhees from Paramount. So if you can get the fucking hockey mask out of the movie, I'll let you write and direct. Quote unquote.
Wow.
And I said, yeah. Yeah. And then I'm leaving the office. I'm heading home. And it suddenly hits me as I'm heading to my apartment. I'm like, wait a minute, get rid of the hockey mask. What? What am I doing? What? It's like I didn't really hear the little, it's like at the end of those drug commercials, could cause anal bleeding. It was that moment that I didn't quite hear the whole get rid of the fucking hockey mask.
You didn't know what you were agreeing to.
No, really didn't. All I heard was Jason Voorhees, and then I was told not to make a movie with Jason Voorhees in it. So I came back 3 days later with a treatment that Sean really dug. It included the body hopping, by the way. It was a much darker movie, way darker than what ended up on screen. But he loved it, and we started writing a script. And I was hired from that moment. So I was hired to write and direct the movie from the time I was 22. New Line finally hired me when I was 23, and I shot the movie when I was 23 years old. So, but it was, that's where we were off to the races. But it's because I'd made Sean a ton of money.
He owed you.
I mean, oh yeah. Well, not only that, it wasn't just that he owed me. He saw that I was willing to work morning, noon, and night with no breaks. I never take a moment. To this day, I never take a day off, because I believe in not just my vision, but in the idea of accomplishing things and getting stories told. Because of that, he saw a lot more money behind me.
Sure.
So it was like, yeah, he's brought me money, but I know there's more money there. And look, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Sean. If he thinks he can make money with you, he will be your friend forever. It's the day you don't make money for him that all bets are off.
Right. It all changes.
That's when suddenly you become the kid with the bad grades.
So why did he want the hockey mask out of the movie?
There was a moment when myself, Dean, Laurie, Noel, and Sean were all sitting around a table having El Pollo Loco, which we lived on for all the years I knew Sean. That's all he would eat. It was terrific. And I enjoy some crazy chicken, but not that much. So we're sitting around having chicken, and Sean asks us, "Where do you guys see yourselves in 5 years?" It was a good conversation starter. So we all wax rhapsodic about how we would, run the entire entertainment industry in 5 years. And then I turned to Sean and I said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And he said, with no irony, not joking, totally straight, he says, "Winning an Academy Award." Are you out of your fucking mind? You're Sean Cunningham. Like, in my head, I'm like, you're the Friday the 13th guy. By the way, that's why he hates the hockey mask. Because here's the thing. You guys have to remember, Sean made the first movie. There was no hockey mask in the first movie.
Right.
He made the first movie, which is a movie about a mother murdering teenagers for her broken brain thinking they let her child drown.
Right.
Her poor hydrocephalic head little boy drowned. Okay. When they asked him to make Friday the 13th Part 2, he wanted to do exactly what John Carpenter wanted. By the way, here's the rule of thumb. Anything John Carpenter did, Sean Cunningham was happy to steal. Every time.
Really?
Got it.
Okay? Every time. So John Carpenter didn't want to make Michael Myers movies. John Carpenter wanted to make movies about Halloween. Tales of Halloween. That's why Halloween 3 is the actual only true John Carpenter sequel to the original. It's the only other true Halloween movie because he didn't want to tell stories about Michael Myers. Like I told a story about the Boogeyman, I wanted to tell other movies about Halloween. Sean Cunningham wanted to tell stories of the unluckiest day of the year, Friday the 13th. He never wanted it to be Jason.
Right.
He had no interest. So when they came to him about the second movie, he said, "Yeah, I got an idea about a guy." And they went, "No, we think it should be about Jason Voorhees." And he went, "Who?" Swear to God. And he's like, "The kid in the lake? The dead kid from the 50s. You want to make a movie about that?" They're like, "Yeah, well, what if he's not a kid?" He's like, "But he is a kid. He's a kid. We saw him at the end of the movie. He's a kid. It was a dream sequence. It was just I was ripping off Brian De Palma's Carrie. That's all I was doing. I needed a last scare." Okay, that's, by the way, all of this is true, guys. Like, this is actually what happened. And then he said, "No, I'm not directing that, but I'd be very happy to take your money since I own a third of the rights."
Right.
So he took the money for the movie. They came to him and said, "What do you think about the Oh, by the way," and his wife cut Part 2, which, by the way, his wife cut Part 2 and his protege, Steve Miner, directed it. And here's the thing about Friday the 13th Part 2. It's still one of the best Friday the 13th movies, and I think far superior than the first movie.
Right.
I was going to say, I love Part 2.
Right, because Steve Miner is a really good director. Sean Cunningham isn't. Sean Cunningham is a brilliant producer. He really is, guys. He is a guy who will find you $1.50 and a dime. He's that guy. Okay? But he doesn't understand storytelling. Like, he doesn't understand style. And he's the first one to tell you, I don't get style. I'm sure you guys remember in Jason Goes to Hell, there's that shot when Stephen Freeman arrives at the Voorhees house, and the camera cranes behind Stephen's back, and it makes the house loom over him. It's this kind of like, oh, shot, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm shooting that shot on set, and as I'm shooting it, Sean Cunningham stands next to me and goes, fucking film school, and walks away.
God.
And this is the guy who's going to win the Academy Award or sees
Right,
himself.
but by the way, the first screening of Jason Goes to Hell, the very first test screening, that shot happened. The entire audience went, "Oh," and I turned to Sean. I said, "We must have a whole theater full of film students."
How's that for film school?
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. So Sean, when they came to him about the sack head, right, for part 2, Sean's response was, "That's stupid. What is it? Elephant Man, the horror movie?" Okay. Then they come to him about part 3 and say, "We're thinking a hockey mask." And Sean was like, "Wow, I thought the sack was stupid." So Sean hated those movies. He hated the audience for those movies. I'm telling you guys, I mean, the number of times he would tell me my audience are a bunch of morons.
Wow.
God.
Yeah, so he has no
None.
respect for the fans that like gave him a career, you would say, because
It's almost like he resents
Yeah.
that icon that he helped create.
He does, because he didn't create that hockey mask. What happened was, when I was working for Sean, when I was his slave for a year, I was reading scripts. I'm not kidding, guys. I was reading scripts that he had for Sean Penn.
Oh wow.
Like I was going through projects that were for like big actors, and I kept looking at him going, "Sean, no one's going to let you direct. Like, I don't know what you're thinking, man." And so he had this image of himself that was a little nuts. By the way, God bless. Like, hey, Wes Craven wanted to work with Meryl Streep and make Music of the Heart, and Wes Craven made it happen. By the way, Wes Craven was also a fucking genius filmmaker.
Yeah, he was.
A genius. By the way, he was Sean's partner when I was a kid, and so I played Johnny Depp's role in the first table read of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's
so
awesome.
Wes Craven was literally, we called him Uncle Wes. I mean, again, my playground was pretty fucking awesome. But here's the thing. Sean Cunningham hated that mask because, you know the story of the man in the iron mask?
Yeah.
Sean is the man in the resin mask.
Uh-huh.
He's trapped. His career is trapped behind that hockey mask. And he so desperately wanted to get out from behind it so he could go and win an Academy Award. And look, the only reason Wes got Music of the Heart made is because he agreed to Scream 3. That's the only way he could get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, as filmmakers, we all pay a price for success. I mean, guys, look, I know that I will make a ton more stuff in my lifetime. I also know that for a ton of my fan base, I will be known as Adam Jason Goes to Hell Marcus. It's a movie I shot when I was 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You have to respect that. Like, I look at that and I go, great. Like, cool. If that's how somebody knows me, great. If they'll watch my other work because they love that, awesome. Who am I to denigrate that? That's an amazing thing. I'm a very lucky filmmaker.
Yeah.
Sean did not feel that way. Just didn't feel that way.
Hey, fan loyalty is something that should not be taken lightly, especially in this day and age,
Ever. Look, I don't understand people who don't respect their fans. I really don't understand people who act like dicks at conventions and act like you're lucky to have their autograph. What are you, insane?
Exactly.
Look, not to mention the fact, and this is not fan service, by the way, this is my true feeling, because I've made movies in several genres. I can flat out tell you the fan base of horror movies, they're the most loyal. They are the best fans. They're the fans that are ride or die with you, as long as you treat them with respect.
Absolutely.
And, I don't understand people who don't respect, especially that fan base.
Right.
I find people like that to be really, really lame. Just lame.
But yeah, at the same time, as soon as they wave $1, he'll grab it.
Oh, you betcha he will.
Yeah.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And again, look, I just wish it wasn't all such a big act, because that's the shame. Because there are times, look, I knew Sean for a healthy portion of my life, and he was There are things that he did for me that are amazing. There were moments we had which were beautiful. I will tell you that the day that I started shooting Jason Goes to Hell, you know, he was really proud of me, and he handed me his director's scope that he was given for his first feature film.
Wow.
And he gave that to me, and, you know, as a gift on my first feature film. And I was like, I felt like his son. Like, I felt like, wow, this is, even though he was usually a dick, I still went, well, you know, he's one of those dads who's just a dick, and then suddenly he's not. And you're like, wow, you were a great guy all along. No, sadly, no. But so I had some amazing times with Sean. I just wish he had been. I just wish he wasn't such a broken dude. He's just not a nice man. That's all. That's what it comes down to. Yeah, it's about money. Whenever anybody's about money, you're kind of screwed. Yeah. You're screwed. Yeah.
So was this his way to kind of like bury Jason, and so he can work toward what he wanted?
I think so. It was also a way for him to make a shit ton of money.
Well, yeah.
He made, guys. Yeah. I mean, he made Jason Goes to Hell was probably his biggest payday up until that point, because he bought Michael Jackson's first estate before he bought Neverland Ranch. He bought his first estate where he still resides.
Oh, wow.
So he bought that off of Jason Goes to Hell. I got a Chrysler LeBaron convertible.
So I got to ask you then, you know, moving forward, how does a 22-year-old Etta Marcus get rid of the fucking hockey mask?
I did it as cleverly as I possibly could, which was I had a problem with the Friday the 13th movies growing up, and again, you have to remember, I saw all those movies in the theater multiple times. I loved those films. My problem with the Friday the 13th movies, which I didn't understand it not being everybody's problem, is that in part one, it's a child that jumps up from the lake at the end of the movie and drags Alice down at the end, who drowned in the 50s, and he's still a child covered with some muck, but he's still a kid in the lake. Then 2 weeks later, he has put on 150 pounds, has found clothes that fit him, has gotten a driver's license, has learned to read. How do I know he learned to read? Because the only way in 1980 and 1981 that you could find another person was you had to look through the white pages. So he had to have actually taken a walk through the white pages to find where she lived. Then he drove to her house with his mom's head. By the way, that means he got a driver's license. Or figured out how to drive a car. You know, the kid who had been living in the lake for the last 30 years.
Well, so did Michael Myers, I guess.
Wait. Michael Myers? Hold on. Michael Myers, I buy. Michael Myers, I buy. Because Michael Myers was 15, and then he was an adult. And he was around other adults. So we don't know if he spent any time in a car being moved to and from tests or psychiatric wards. We don't know. So that one I'll buy, but the kid who lived in the lake for 30 years and then 2 weeks later is a full-grown man who murders Alice, takes her body and mom's head back to camp, sets up a shrine so that a year later, boom, I'm ready for Friday the 13th Part 2. Here's the thing. Because not only that, but then you get to part 4 where his head is torn to tiny bits and pieces in one of the absolute best sequences in the entire franchise.
Agreed.
Then part 5, they're like, you know what? We'll just have another guy play Jason. And he'll happen to have a photograph from a newspaper in his pocket. I always look at the photograph in part 5 and go, so do anyone want to tell the tale of the unlucky photographer and his found reel of film? By part 6, you got poor Tommy Jarvis, right? And Tom Matthews is brilliant in part 6. And part 6, by the way, is my favorite of all the films.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite too.
It's an incredible movie. It's a great film. You have this great Frankenstein's monster resurrection scene. You bring Jason back. Now he's zombie Jason. But here's the problem. He's zombie Jason with a fully intact head. How did that happen? I mean, I'm sorry. I saw Tommy Jarvis tear his head up with a machete. He did not hit it once. He didn't hit it twice. He hit it over and over and over again. It would be hamburger meat. Yet there's a completely formed head on Jason in part 6. By part 7, he's fighting Carrie. By part 8, he's taking the Circle Line around New York for a boat ride. And then landing in Canada. Not to mention the toxic ooze that runs through the sewers of New York. The what? The nuclear waste? What is that? Did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 all of a sudden become Jason Takes Manhattan? It's like, but
what a crossover,
right? Go ninjas! So here's the thing.
Secret of the Ooze.
I think there is something. There's something so what's the right word? Stupid about the timeline of the Friday the 13th movies that I went, okay, none of this shit makes sense. So why don't we make it make sense? And what I did was I went back to the movie that made me want to make independent horror movies, which was Evil Dead. Now, the thing about Evil Dead is that when the movie came out, I was a kid. I was maybe 13. You could not see that movie in a theater. It only played in a few movie theaters. People think it was like this wide release. It was not. It was a tiny release. And the only way you could get it, I had a buddy in New York who got me a bootleg of it on VHS. And bootlegs on VHS back then were a big freaking deal. I think it cost me $90 for that bootleg. I brought it home to my buddies in Connecticut. We all watched it in my buddy Dan Lowenstein's basement, like 20 of us. And people were like losing their freaking minds. And all I kept thinking was, wait a second. This was made by a bunch of guys who grew up together in the Midwest, who just really wanted to make movies, who didn't think about the rules of how you're allowed to make movies. They just went for it. And they made it on consecutive weekends, so much so that most of the cast couldn't hang out for the whole shoot. That's where the fake Shemp thing came along. So you got buddies making an independent horror film, and things like the shaky can, the last shot of the movie, which is just a camera on a piece of wood that two people run with. That was the shit that I lived for when I was 13. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, how do I get to do that? So I went to the core of Evil Dead, which is the Necronomicon, and said, okay, if Pamela Voorhees would do anything to have her Jason back, wouldn't she explore the dark side? Wouldn't she explore dark magic and black magic rituals? Wouldn't that be a place she would go to bring her beloved Jason back? And what if she did resurrect him by reading the Necronomicon? And by the way, not the Necronomicon that was in the movie The Evil Dead. There's more than one Necronomicon. I love when people are like, the Necronomicon in The Evil Dead was in the woods. I'm like, oh, shut up. There's more than one Necronomicon. Here's the thing. Now imagine this handicapped child, this hydrocephalic-headed little boy, is now trapped at the bottom of Crystal Lake, and he wakes up and he doesn't know where to go, and he's terrified, and the world is freezing cold and dank, and he's breathing in mud and lake water. And one of the first things he sees, because remember the camp was closed for decades, one of the first things he sees is his mother lakeside with a counselor, and then that counselor rips his mother's head off. And now he has a reason to come to the surface. And he drags Alice down. Well, by the way, now he's part of the Evil Dead legacy. Now he's, whether he's a Deadite or a Revenant or one of the other creatures from hell, he is now Hell's assassin. And now I believe him gaining 120 pounds in 2 weeks, because now he is a spirit of vengeance because he just witnessed his mother being murdered. Now this is our Jason. So for my money, that gave me a reason for the story to be in the first place. So going from that to jumping forward to, oh, so when you kill Jason, that's not killing Jason, and he just needs to get back to his original form. Okie doke. And that's where the birth of that mythology came from.
So was that in keeping? So you weren't like, because it's really popular now in horror movies, to wipe away continuity of sequels. You were keeping all that intact. You were just kind of giving it a reason why.
The only movie that I was told not to attach my film to, the only film, was Part 8. So
Gotcha.
My film takes place right after Part 7.
Gotcha.
Part 8 is the only one that I was told by everyone involved, including New Line and Sean Cunningham, ignore that thing even got made, quote unquote. Now, by the way, I was a fan of Part 8, even though, it has its shortcomings. There's no way around it. But I look, I'm 22. I did exactly what I was told to do as a writer. And I said, okay, I will work around Part 8. So that's why he's still in Crystal Lake in the beginning of Part 9, is because I was attaching it to Part 7. But no, I did not retcon the movie at all. I did not. Here's the way I look at Jason Goes to Hell. Jason Goes to Hell is the Rogue One of the Friday the 13th franchise. Like, I went back and told you why someone would leave a 2-meter hole in the Death Star that if you put one shot into it, the whole thing go boom. I'm the filmmaker that did that for Friday the 13th. I went in and spackled the one really stupid hole in the franchise, which is, how does this child become this adult in 2 weeks?
It's actually a really smart move.
Yeah.
Actually.
Thank you.
It takes care of a big plot hole, if you don't pay attention to it.
I find it how interesting nobody ever questions that.
Yeah.
They just go from 1 to 2 and they're like, oh, here's Jason now.
Well, here's the thing I learned is that as long as you keep continuity with whatever mask Jason is wearing that week, you're fine. Okay? It's that when you take away the hockey mask, all bets are off, and people tell you that you raped their childhood and they hope you get ass cancer.
Oh, God.
But as long as you keep the hockey mask, you're fine. So yeah, that seems to be the only problem any of the hardcore fans feel about the movie. By the way, when I say hardcore fans, I mean people who beg filmmakers to make different movies, to make original stories, and then you do that, and they go, "Why isn't there more hockey mask in my movie?"
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty hardcore Jason movie. It's just like Creighton Duke says, he wears other people's skins like most people wear a suit.
Mm-hmm.
That was the idea.
And I thank you for saying that, because that's one of the big issues I have, particularly nowadays with the Halloween fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Halloween Resurrection, we can talk about failure in execution, but that was a different movie, and they shit all over it. And then you get Halloween 2018, which retreads the origins, and you didn't give us something different. It's like
there's no winning,
right? Right. Well, you know what? I think there is a way to win with this stuff. I think you have to honor the fans. And look, you have to remember, I came into the project. There was no internet at the time. We had Fangoria. That was the horror community's internet, was Fangoria magazine. And I was a kid who consumed everything about horror movies. I loved the Friday the 13th franchise. I loved the genre. So I was an uber fan of these movies. And my sense of it was, how do I deliver a movie that I've been begging for? Like, none of this shit in Friday the 13th made sense because of that one big hole. So I was like, okay, what if I fill that hole? But by the way, more than that, this is before Scream. This is before anybody was doing sort of this, sort of looking back with silliness at our genre. And so I looked at the franchise and went, okay, one of the biggest problems we have in our movies is that people get crazy when people in a horror movie act like people in a horror movie, right? It's like that great Geico commercial. Hey, let's go hide behind the chainsaws, which is hilarious. It's hilarious, right? Because we all go like, yes, this is the stupid shit that teenagers do in horror movies. My impression of it was, wait a second. What if in the world of our horror movies, the kind of horror movies we live with don't exist? So it took me to this idea. This is so silly, but it's true. When I was really little, I mean really little, and I'm watching Scooby-Doo, and suddenly Batman came on in an episode of Scooby-Doo.
It's a good episode.
And I was like, right? And I was like, wait a minute. Like my 6-year-old mind was like exploding. I was like, wait a second. So Scooby-Doo is friends with Batman? How is that possible, right? And then like 3 weeks later, the Harlem Globetrotters were on Scooby-Doo. I was like, Scooby-Doo knows everybody. Okay? So that's when I approached Jason Goes to Hell, I was like, wait a sec. What if I tie together, if I stitch in all these other horror icons so that there is just a universe of just horror movies that has no connection to our universe? It's its own thing.
Like a slasher universe type idea?
Exactly. A slasher verse.
I like that.
And by the way, this is before Marvel. This is before there was any universe building. Nobody was doing this shit back then.
Adam Marcus did it before Marvel, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just put that out there.
I'm telling you, it's kind of a thing. And by the way, it all happens because of Scooby-Doo. Like that was truly like, I was like, what if Leatherface exists in the same world as Jason?
Yeah.
And by the way, let's be honest, Freddy Krueger lives in that world. So Freddy and Jason live in the same plane. That's been made canon.
Yeah.
So now I throw in Evil Dead, which means Ash lives in that world, which is really fucking awesome. And not only that, but Creepshow is now part of that because you know that the crate from Fluffy from Creepshow is in the basement of the Voorhees house because Pamela was getting any antiquity she could find that were of a dark magic origin to resurrect her son. So this is why, look, the movie in front of the Voorhees house is the actual jungle gym, one of the jungle gyms from the movie The Birds. It's why I put a bird weather vane at the top of the jungle gym.
About that.
And that's the real thing. We got it from Universal Studios. So we had all of this mythical stuff that I kept connecting to the movie because I wanted it to be this universe of horror. And so anyway, and then I really wanted to make a monster movie. I was like, why can't a Friday the 13th movie be a monster movie since Jason is a monster?
Right.
Like, let's do that. And Part 6 really opened the door for that by making it a Frankenstein story.
So something that I'm kind of curious about, I've been hearing a couple of different things about, one of the ideas that you had was the hockey mask to appear like under Jason's like possessed victims.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that and why? Sure. I think that would have been awesome. Why wasn't that put in the movie?
It was too expensive. We had hit. Look, here's the thing. K&B did the effects on the movie, and Bob Kurtzman, who was really my point guy. Bob Kurtzman and Howard Berger were my point people on that movie. Bob Kurtzman is still one of my best friends for the last 28 years now. Bob was also my second unit director on Jason Goes to Hell. I hired him as my second unit director because he built the effects. I'm like, look, no one's going to know how to shoot those effects and light those effects as well as you. So I'm not a moron who says I know how to do everything. That's crazy. I'm 23. Let's do this. So I had Bob work with me in tandem on this stuff. Here's the thing. Greg Nicotero, who I adore, Greg was so mad at me on a daily basis because I kept talking Bob Kurtzman and Howard Berger into spending more money on my movie that we weren't giving them. So truly, like, there are way too many effects in Jason Goes to Hell. We didn't pay for all those effects. I had the entire shop at K&B, which was like 25 people working every weekend just to do it. Oh, wow. Just to like make new shit. So much so, do you guys remember there's and then I'll get right back to your question. There's a moment in the movie where Officer Josh is meeting this woman in the parking lot of the diner, and they're going to go off and have this illicit affair because her husband Ed is off bowling. And they only got a couple hours. So that woman, by the way, was a woman named Diana Georgia. That's the actress who was an associate of the casting department for the movie. She was an amazing person. I was crazy about her, and I was like, "You should be in the movie." And she was, because she's an actress, and she was like, "Oh, I don't have to be in the movie." It's like, no, you need to be in the movie. I want you in the movie. So I gave her that part. Well, I put her in that wig. She has this like crazy wig with a schmata over it. And I said, look, I wanted to crush her head in the door of the car. And Kurtzman comes to me and he's like, "Adam, I brought up this extra death you want to do. Greg is literally pricing out how much it would cost to put a hit on you and I, so that he can be done with us and this movie." And I said, "Tell Greg it's not going to cost him a thing." I said, "Bob, do you have any foam? Just a roll of foam." He was like, "Yeah, sure." So he brings me this pad, this roll of foam, and I spin it around. I stick the wig on it with the piece of fabric. I then hold it in the car door, and I said, "Hit the foam." Guys, all you're watching is a wig getting hit by a car door.
Oh,
there's no effect.
Man.
That was like one of the most cringy deaths I've seen.
Yep. And all it is sound effects and a wig.
Wow.
That's it. So, and by the way, that is the kind of filmmaker. By the way, look, the finger breaking scene. People swear they see all kinds of effects that are happening in that scene. Nothing is happening. That is acting and sound effects. That's it. That's it.
But that's what makes it great, is because you don't see it. You just you imagine what's happening.
That's the more terrifying thing, is when you get the mind going, you know?
Totally agree. By the way, on like cool casting in the movie that nobody ever talks about. So my script coordinator, my script supervisor, was a brilliant woman named Harry James. Swear to God, Harriet James, but she went by Harry. So Harry James. Harry James makes an appearance in the movie, but it's another connection to another film, again, because Harry James is an actor. She was an actress for a long time. She played a character that is very important to my heart because I love this movie. So when I found out she was that, when I met her, I was like, "Wait a minute, you're from that movie." She was like, "Yeah, how do you recognize me?" I was like, "Oh, what are you kidding me? It's one of my favorite movies." And I said, could you do me a favor? She's like, "Sure, anything." And we were really close friends at that point. I said, "If I get you a police uniform, will you reenact your role from that movie in my movie?" And she's like, yeah, of course. That would be amazing. Harry James, she doesn't speak in the movie. In the scene when they're bringing Stephen in to arrest him, right? They've just arrested Stephen. They're bringing him into the police station. And he passes Carrie Keegan holding baby Stephanie. Mm-hmm. When they pass each other, that first moment, there's a woman who walks through the police station in a full police outfit. That is Harry James, who, by the way, played the dispatcher who tells Bruce Willis to go fuck himself in Die Hard.
Oh my God.
So that's her. That's her.
Oh my God.
So that's it. By the way, that's an Easter egg I never talk about. But
that's brilliant.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Here's the thing about the hockey mask under the skin. My initial concept was I wanted, as people lived with Jason's soul in their bodies for too long, that the soul was so evil, it was so toxic to a human body that eventually, like Josh, it would blubber away to nothing. It would melt. The body would just simply melt. So I wanted under people's faces as they were in as Jason was in them for too long, I wanted to see their eyes start to sink in and start to see the mask underneath the skin, as though Jason was trying to burst free from the cocoon. So I wanted that to be a thing. We did a lot of tests. It was really expensive to pull it off. And remember, there was no CGI.
Right.
So I couldn't just do it in post, which would have cost nothing now.
Right.
But back then it was impossible. So, but I did want to do it. And by the way, then all of my mask idiots would shut up.
Right.
I was about to say, shut the fans up.
No kidding. No kidding. It really would. It really would. Here's what was amazing about production, and it really was amazing. So I got to set on the first day. Now, when I was hiring everybody for the film, I'm sure you guys have seen many pictures of me at this point, but I've always had a beard. Mustache and beard is just my face. Because here's the thing. When I shave the mustache and beard, I look like I'm 14. So in an effort to seem like the boss, I grew out facial hair. So there I am, hiring my cast and crew with a full beard. When we go to shoot the movie, we were shooting the movie in July and August in Los Angeles. It's freaking hot. And by the way, we're in the valley most of the movie, which means it's 10 degrees hotter. So it's a nightmare. So I was like, I'm going to die if I have a carpet on my face. So I shaved my beard and mustache. I show up to set first day. My cinematographer, Bill Dill, who I adore, and to this day, we're very close friends. We're actually going to be making a movie together this year. Bill says to me, he looks at me like truly his jaw drops and he goes, and this is in front of a 100-person crew, he goes, "How the fuck old are you?" That was day one, moment one. So I had shown up to set. I had a shot list for my first day. I kid you not. That was 50 shots long. 50 shots.
Wow.
My first AD got my list, showed it to my cinematographer. The two of them leave the set, go and get Sean. The three of them are having this like sort of witches cabal from the beginning of the Scottish play. And then they all approach me and they're like, and Sean Cunningham is like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "You can't even get half these goddamn shots. Are you fucking crazy?" I was like, "Okay, all right, simmer down now. Okay, let me figure it out." There's a photograph that I still have, and I have it right at my desk. It's of my back. I'm sitting at a table, at one of the lunch tables that have been put on the lawn of the house where we were shooting the first day. And I'm sitting at this lunch table, totally alone, rewriting my shot list. I keep that photograph at my desk for one very specific reason. I cut that shot list down to half. Okay, I think I had 22 shots, right? 22 shots on that shot list, and I combined shots. By the end of that first day, I had gotten 29 shots. I'd added 7 to the list.
Wow.
By the end of my first week, I had 38 to 40 shots per day. Per day. Okay? By the time Jason Goes to Hell was finished, my shot average per day was in the mid-40s.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's the thing. Everybody tries to tell you you can't do the thing you want to do your way. And they all tell you, because it's never been done this way before, it has to be done this other way. It has to be done the way it's always been done by a bunch of cranky assholes. And my response to that is, bite me. I will lead by example, and I'll get everybody so excited, having such a good time on this movie, that we're going to want to work our asses off. What was so great about that movie is no one ever walked away from that set tired because they'd been bored. Everyone worked every second of every day. We walked away from that set tired and satisfied because we had worked a full fucking day. And by the way, I didn't do overtime. I came in under budget, under time on Jason Goes to Hell. And it was my first feature, and I way surpassed what they thought I was going to be able to do with the movie. Here's the other thing. After the first 4 days of dailies, New Line literally stopped coming to dailies and said, "He's got it. He knows what he's doing." They never came to my set again. They said, "Make your movie."
So everyone got on board with you.
100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
So much so that when I called Mike DeLuca and Mark Ardesky and said, "Hey guys, I have an idea for the end of the movie," and they're like, "Yeah, what's that?" I said, "Well, can I have Freddy's glove?" And they were like, what the hell do you want it for? And I'm like, well,
make them nervous.
I have this great idea for the end of the movie. And I told them what the ending was. I think to this day, they're still laughing and high-fiving, literally to today, over that idea. And they couldn't have sent me the glove quicker. So it's, I think the mistake that most people come at filmmaking, and by the way, I think it's the mistake that most people come at life with. I think most people live their lives in fear. We're all, and again, I'm not saying that it isn't warranted. I think it is warranted. I think there's a lot of things that make the world fearful, not unlike New York in the 70s and 80s. But I was never afraid of any of that. I've never had fear in my life. I am unafraid to battle a studio. I'm unafraid to battle Sean Cunningham. Guys, 3 days before the film ended, Sean threatened to fire me because of a lighting choice. I kid you not.
What?
Really?
And I said to him, I'm standing there, my cinematographer, he was chewing out my DP and I. My DP, by the way, who is a genius and one of the most remarkable, accomplished people I've ever worked with. My DP and I are standing there. Sean is screaming at us because you're going to love this. So at the end of the film, when my brother Kip gets his head cut off, when Officer Randy gets his head cut off, and the demon baby comes out of his neck, right? The little Jason comes out of his neck. I wanted there to be a sense, because we had only seen Crystal Lake in that first shot of the movie in the very opening. I wanted there to be a sense that the lake had come back into the movie, the Crystal Lake, that the spirit of Crystal Lake was in the room with us. So I had Bill and I had worked out this idea of having this light effect happening inside the Voorhees house. That's this blue rippling light that looks like light when it comes off of a lake.
Yeah. And
from that point to the end of the movie, there's this rippling blue light all over the room whenever the magic has escaped, right? My editor saw this in the morning he got the daily. He was like, Adam, this effect is genius and it's going to be beautiful to cut to. Like, I can actually use it for editing. I was like, great. An hour later, I hear that Sean Cunningham is tearing my cinematographer a new asshole. I was like, what? So I run back. I'm like, what's up? What's going on? And Sean is like, look, you're a fucking idiot. So I expect this of you. But he turns to Bill. He goes, but you're supposed to be the fucking adult in the room. What the hell is this bullshit lighting effect? And I said, hey, Sean, stop yelling at my DP. I'm the director of the movie. You can yell at me. I said, it's a choice that we made artistically. It's a choice I believe in. And it's a choice I think is great in the movie. He starts yelling at me. I said, Sean, what are you saying? You want to fire me? He's like, I should fire your ass. I said, do it. Do it. I said, but have fun finishing the rest of the fucking movie without anybody here, because my crew and my cast will walk on you. And Bill Dill stood there and went, I know I'm leaving. And Sean Cunningham slinked away like the little mouse he is, the little rat he is. And we went back to set and finished the movie.
Wow.
But that's who Sean, that's the kind of shit I put up with on a daily basis from Sean. But again, my cast and crew, guys, look, I mean, you guys, I'm sure you guys know, we're making Hearts of Darkness, the making of the Final Friday.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's a movie that for many years I was not interested in telling the story. I just wasn't. I was like, I don't know who's going to want to hear all this. And then I found out, wow, a lot of people wanted to hear this. I found that out because a couple of buddies of mine, they started a fan page on Facebook as a birthday present for me a few years ago, which was just really sweet. I was like, oh, that's really nice, man. Like, how cool is that? And I thought, there'll be 100 people on here talking about they like this freaking movie. And within a couple days, there were a couple thousand people. Oh, wow. I was like, what the hell's going on? And it was amazing, the outpouring of love that came from this fan base, where I was like, wow, maybe I should do this. And so that was the impetus to go make this documentary. Well, I got to tell you, in making this, and again, I'm producing the documentary. My company is Skeleton Crew. And first we had an Indiegogo campaign that was like through the roof. By the way, I am not joking. This very morning, someone just signed on as an associate producer on the movie.
Oh, really?
Sent us a bunch of money for the movie. I was like, what the hell? The campaign is still going. Like Indiegogo, it went so well. Indiegogo was like, yeah, you can keep it up. We're fine with that. Go for it. I was like, really? Oh, all right. Okay, cool. So like people who still want to be involved and blah, 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 they can be. And especially the pandemic literally put us on pause for a year. That's been fun.
Yeah.
But right before the pandemic, we started shooting the movie. We shot a ton of the movie in January and February of last year. I got to tell you, I've done 31 interviews so far.
Oh, wow.
What's incredible, every actor who walked into the room, every crew person who walked into the room, I mean everybody, they would walk in, it was like time had stood still since the last time I saw them. Because some of them I've been friends with the whole time. Others, I literally haven't seen since I shot with them, or since the premiere of the movie. And they walk in the room and like, we go and give each other a hug. And I'm like, oh my God, it is literally like I saw you yesterday. And the love of the people that I worked with all those years ago. And again, I was a kid. I was just a dumb, silly, nutty kid. So yeah, so it's amazing. Like the number of tears that have been shed on camera for this thing, the number of stories that have been told that I had no idea happened. And again, these are people that I still love. And I look at, and each one of them has been asked, so do you remember your time with Sean? And I'm telling you, there's 3 people who said, oh yeah, no, I remember with Sean. Every other person was like, was Sean there?
It's funny because he would claim years later that he reshot a lot of it.
By the way, Sean Cunningham is a fucking liar. And by the way, I address it in the documentary. And that's why I ask people, so what about the reshoots? Who directed the reshoots? And I don't ask the question. By the way, do you guys know Peter Bracke? Peter asked everybody, so, what do you remember about the reshoots? Who directed the reshoots? Every single person like, well, Adam directed the reshoots. Well, what about Sean? I don't remember Sean even being there. So Sean has been saying this for years. It's an absolute bald-faced lie. It's a lie. He shot 3 shots in the movie. That's the truth.
Why does he feel the need to take credit then for reshoots?
Because here's the thing. Sean was 40 when the first Friday the 13th came out, and it was his first true success. It was actually one of his only successes as a director. Okay? He was 40 years old. Here's a 23-year-old kid shooting a movie with a 100-person crew, with a huge cast, with a stunt and effect working every single day, making my days, where New Line offered me a 3-picture deal after the movie was done. Sean hated how well I did. He hated it. He hated that I didn't need him to hold my hand. He hated all of it.
So
because I was 23.
So almost like more he's saying that as a resentment for you and your success.
At that time, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. No, he needed to take ownership of the movie. Because, guys, I don't even know if you remember this, but if you ever watched the teaser or the trailer, because they really only made one, for Jason Goes to Hell from New Line, and it's a beautiful trailer. Like, they actually did a great job on it.
With the silver mask and, yeah.
Yes. Where it explodes, and then and it says the creator of the first returns to bring you the last,
right?
And it says Sean S. Cunningham. It says Sean S. Cunningham, right? And then after that, in a solo card on screen, it says with this loud bump behind it, it says directed by Adam Marcus. Guys, when I was asked to go to a screening, a special contest screening of the movie Menace to Society. Because they had attached the Jason Goes to Hell trailer on the front of Menace to Society. They figured we had a lot of the same audience. And so I went to this theater in LA, which was filled with this crowd that had all won tickets to see Menace to Society from a radio station. So it was like a crazy, crazy crowd, right? Just having a ball. So there I am with all the executives from New Line. I had never seen the trailer. They played the trailer in front of the movie, and they didn't even tell me that was happening. They just said, we want you to come to this screening of the movie. It's a New Line movie. You're one of our directors, blah, 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 blah. Take you out for dinner. I'm like, okay, cool, great. Guys, they played that trailer and there was my name on a Solo title card. Guys, no one gets that. Wow. No one gets that. I didn't, that wasn't in my contract. That's not something that anybody told me about or asked me if it just happened. I was like, oh my God. And I remember Sean was furious that I got a Solo card. He was furious because, again, 23-year-old kid with a Solo directing card on my first feature. It was insane.
Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
People in the audience to feel like they were in the hands of a dangerous filmmaker. Like, you don't know what this guy's going to do next.
Right.
That was the feeling I wanted. So, and by the way, look, Michael Silver, great looking dude with a great butt. By the way, very happy to show his entire package. The funny thing about men and nudity in movies, and this is really true, guys cannot wait to get naked. They can't wait. Like, you literally, there's a cut scene from the movie. I don't know whether you guys have seen it or not, where Vicky and her boyfriend comes home from work and he's going to take a shower. She's just taking a shower. She's got the baby and she's leaving for work. And then he gets killed by Josh. Yep. He gets his head shoved into the faucet, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. That actor is Jonathan Penner. Jonathan Penner is an amazing actor and a brilliant screenwriter as well. He and his wife, Stacey Title, made the movie The Bye-Bye Man. They also made an incredible film called The Last Supper. If you've never seen it, I really recommend it. You guys will love the movie. It's a great film. Jonathan he's also the person on Survivor, the television show Survivor. He's the person who's played the most days of any contestant. Oh, wow. That's no joke. Wow. So if you look up Jonathan Penner, you're going to be like, it's amazing. Jonathan's wife, Stacy, we just lost her to ALS at the beginning of this year. She had been battling the disease for a couple of years. He's one of my favorite people. I just love Jonathan. Anyway, Jonathan was supposed to play the lead in the movie. Jonathan was supposed to be Stephen Freeman.
Really?
Yes. And by the way, more than that, Jonathan wasn't just supposed to be Stephen Freeman. Jonathan was supposed to be Tommy Jarvis. Because originally, the hero of my movie was Tommy Jarvis. And I wasn't allowed to use him because New Line didn't buy Tommy Jarvis. They bought Jason Voorhees. So I wasn't allowed to use Tommy Jarvis. So Jonathan Penner had been hired to play the lead of the movie. And then we got pushed for 3 months for nothing to do with the film. It was Bob Shea at New Line. He pushed the movie for 3 months. And suddenly, I lost Jonathan because he had another film that he had signed up for. So I went to Jonathan and said, hey, dude, I want you to be in the movie. I got this character, David. It's a one-day shoot. He's like, I'm in. Done. I'll be there. Finished. So I said, yeah, but wait, there's nudity. He says, fuck yeah. I'm like, okay, so here's the thing. He gets to my set. We're setting up for the shot where he's going to be naked. I haven't even gotten the lighting right, and this guy drops trowel. and let's just put it this way: it was a warm day, and he was very excited for the scene. And I said, hey, dude, listen. First off, put the monster away. Second off, I can't shoot angry pickles, so calm down.
Oh my God.
So here's the thing, when it came to casting on the movie, like, I was so open to like being creative and doing like amazing things. Guys, Joey B was written as a man. Joey B, the reason it's named Joey B is because when I was a kid, we had a house out in Fire Island, which is an island off of Long Island. I don't know if you guys know the island. But we had a house out there, and 2 doors behind us was Mel Brooks.
Oh, jeez.
To our left was a guy named Joe Bologna, the actor Joseph Bologna. Also great playwright. And Joe Bologna is one of my favorite actors as a kid. And so that's why I named the diner Joey B's. It was named after Joe Bologna. So I was looking for an actor who would give me that kind of performance like Joe Bologna. So what happened was Rusty Schwimmer came in to read for the character of Joey B's wife, Shelby. So she came in, she read for the role of the wife. And I was like, you are a genius. I had a room full of women waiting to read that role. And I said, listen, I walked up, and by the way, I had been reading opposite all the actors. I was the one doing the auditions, right? So I walk over to Rusty Schwimmer and I said, listen, can you do me a favor? I said, I'm exhausted. And I'd rather just watch the rest of the day. You know, I said, and here's the thing, you got the role. Like, let's just say it now, it's your role. Done. She was like, you're kidding me. You're handing me in the room? I said, oh, I'm giving it to you in the room. You're amazing. Done. I said, but I don't want the other people who came in to audition for this to feel like they're not going to get a chance to be seen. So can you do me a favor? Can you read opposite the other actors as they come in? Can you just read the lines of Joey B opposite the actors? The other actresses, she says, no problem. You got a boss. I was like, so she sits down in my chair. She starts to read opposite these other women that come in. And she's reading the character of Joey B. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God. And I turn to my casting people. I say, guys, I'm a moron. That's Joey B. It's not a guy. That's a girl. Like, that's got to be her. She's a genius. I said, do you guys know any really funny diminutive actors who could play her husband? I said, because she's such a towering presence. I was like, I want to get a little guy. And he said, boy, do we have a little guy for you. And in walks in Leslie Jordan. Wow. And Leslie Jordan ended up playing the wife character of the couple. And the guy who plays their son is one of my closest friends since we were 8 years old, Adam Cranner, who's the guy who got the Letterman jackets with me in high school. So that's that family. But again, guys, my casting process is about who's the best fit for a role. And sometimes I'm just, by the way, Creighton Duke, we cast a Caucasian actor to play Creighton Duke.
Really?
We had a brilliant Broadway actor, amazing guy, who got cold feet because it was a Friday the 13th movie. And his agent pulled him out of the movie about, 2 weeks before the film was going to go. We were like, you're kidding us. So my casting directors came to me and they said, listen, have you thought of maybe going black? And at first I was like, well, do you mean in my personal life or for the movie? I said, because I'm open to anything. And they said, what do you think of Creighton Duke as black? And I said, I think it's fucking amazing. Like, I think it's a great idea. Why not? I said, who do you got? Who are we going to look at? So, guys, I read Yaphet Kotto, who just passed away.
Yeah.
I love Yaphet, by the way. I loved him. He was the sweetest man. Guy. Oh my God, he was incredible. So I met Yaphet, and then I met Tony Todd.
Oh wow.
Legend.
Who read for Creighton. Again, what like, just come on now. I mean, just come on. The problem was they wouldn't let me use Yaphet because he was in Freddy's Dead. Mm-hmm. And New Line does not let actors do that in their franchises. They don't do that. So I was like, okay, fine, cool. For me, Tony Todd was going to be distracting. He's amazing. He's a genius actor, but it would have been distracting. Stephen Williams came in. Guys, it was like the Rusty Schwimmer moment. It was like he walked in, he said like 3 lines. And it's like, oh, that's Creighton. We just found Creighton Duke. There's the Duke. And I remember he would come on the set certain mornings and be like, you are the Duke of New York. You're number 1. He is, guys, he is such a madman. Because we did his interview a year ago for the doc. He shows up, we knock on the door, he shows up to the door, I'm not kidding you, shirtless, holding a beer in one hand and a knife in the other, and says, "Who the fuck are you?" And my producing partner, Allie, was like, "We're here to shoot you back." He goes, "No, I'm kidding with you. Come on in. I know you are. Come on."
That's great.
Now that she's had a heart attack.
Exactly. He is such a freaking madman, and he is just the most beautiful, amazing actor to work with, because he's just totally collaborative and wonderful. Great actor.
Definitely the character and the actor that stands out in the movie.
Yeah.
Was there more to that character, or was there stuff that was left out in terms of like his origin and stuff like that? Because he obviously has a connection to Jason.
Yeah, a ton. Look, there. I know that footage exists. They have never put it on any of the iterations of the disc, which is a shame. But we did shoot his monologue about what happened and how he and what he called Sally Rottencrotch got attacked by Jason. I swear to God, that's what he would say to me. And it was a good scene. The Creighton character was treated much like the rest of the movie. They wanted to get the movie under 90 minutes. If a movie is under 90 minutes, you get an extra full showing per day in every theater, which meant an extra couple million in profit. I totally understand it. It's show business, not show theater play, happy time. They have to make their money. I get it. I honor that. I respect that. The shame is that there's a lot of character stuff throughout the film that I wish was there, because I think we wrote some pretty cool people. The thing I like about our movie is, one of my favorite films of all time, and it's referenced in a Creighton Duke scene, is Jaws. I think Jaws is the finest directed movie of all time. I think the direction of that film is without measure. And the extraordinary thing about it is that it's not a movie about a shark. It's a movie about a bunch of people, and a shark swims into their lives and upends their lives. But it's the people that you love. You don't love the shark. No one's rooting for Jaws in the movie Jaws. The problem I find with the Friday the 13th franchise and other franchises like it is that the movies stop being scary. The reason they stop being scary is because you're rooting for the villain. You're not rooting for the heroes anymore because there are no heroes. They are paper-thin cutouts. They're designed that way so that when they get killed, you're not very upset about it. You're having a great time. It's part of the roller coaster. That's the big loop-de-loop. And we want you to be a little bit scared. We want you to be thrilled, but we don't want you to really be upset. That's a problem for me in a lot of horror movies, is that there's no consequence to the violence in these movies. And so I wanted to make a movie where Jason was a shark under the water, while the town and the characters inside that town were real people, and people you might actually give a shit about when they die. I know, like when Allison Smith dies in the back room of the diner, I know that it bothers people. Like, I know people get upset when Allison Smith goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, good. Because one, she's an amazing person. Two, she gives a really cool performance, and she's a lovely character. Like, you really care about that woman. I wanted you to like the family in the diner. They're ridiculous. No two ways about it. They're over the top. But they're lovable. There's something lovable about this husband and wife team who run this place, who literally have more guns than they have coffee cups. Seriously, like, have you ever seen a diner with more firepower? Come on, it's like a John Woo movie.
It's so
like
true.
Suddenly my movie becomes the killer. Seriously, Better Tomorrow 3 all of a sudden breaks out in the middle of a Jason movie. But here's the thing. I think that there's more value to movies that give us fully expressed human beings, and the cut that was available to the mass audience was a very neutered cut. One, in terms of violence, because the gore was way over the top, and two, in terms of character development. We just weren't given the screen time to have that kind of development.
We at Scarifyer hope you've enjoyed this interview with writer-director Adam Marcus, but we are not done yet. That's right. Next Friday, part 2 of our exclusive interview with Adam Marcus, where he talks about his post-Jason Goes to Hell career. He's a tremendous filmmaker and a great guy, so you're not going to want to miss it. It's next week, and in the meantime, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, comment down below, and we'll see you next time here at
Scarifyer.